Hi, and welcome to this module in which we will have a look at basic functionalities. So we will cover basic functionalities, general functions, such as deleting, adding, and changing content. We will also have a look at function keys. So basically all the things that a user starting to work with NAV needs to know. Let me show you the different topics. So first of all, we will start with function keys, keyboard shortcuts. And well, this is pretty straightforward because most of these function keys and shortcuts are also used in other Windows applications like Office, Excel, Word, and so on. We will have a look at how we can enter and edit information. Then there are a number of very useful functions, such as the zoom function, filtering, searching. As also there, we will cover them in detail. We will also have a look at the integration with other Microsoft Office products, OneNote, Word, and Excel. And finally, we'll also describe the posting process within Microsoft Dynamics NAV. Let's now go to the first lesson, in which we will have a look at how we can use function keys and keyboard shortcuts. In this lesson, let's have a look at shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, function keys, and so on. Now, in an application such as NAV, it's very important that users can also work with the keyboard. Obviously, all functions, all features can be accessed by using the mouse, but in order to work more efficiently, and in a lot of cases faster, you can also use keyboard shortcuts, function keys, shortcuts, and so on. Now, typically, for a lot of functions, NAV uses the same shortcuts as you can also use in, for example, Office. In Word and Excel, when you want to create a new worksheet, you can click on Ctrl-N. When you want to delete something, you can click on Ctrl-Delete. And basically, it's working in exactly the same way in NAV. Now, there are lots of keyboard shortcuts that you can use, and by going to the help server, so to the NAV help, you can get an overview of all these shortcuts. So let me show you an example. So this is the help page I'm talking about. So here you can see all the keyboard shortcuts that we have in NAV. Some of them are very obvious. Some of them, like I just said, we also know from other applications, such as the F1 function key, which is always used to open help. But also things such as Ctrl-N, which you can use to create a new record, like, for example, a new customer or a new item or whatever. Ctrl-Delete, if I scroll down a little bit, to delete a selected line. If you want to delete a record, you can use this shortcut. So once again, all these functions can be accessed both by using the mouse or by using the keyboard. So very important, but also very obvious keyboard shortcuts. In the following lesson, we will have a look at how to enter and edit information in NAV 2013 R2. Let's now have a look at how we can enter and edit information in NAV. Now, this is, of course, something very simple. You can just go to a field, enter data in a field based on the field type, as we will see in a couple of moments. But also something very important, which I will show you here, are shortcuts. I like, for example, shortcuts to enter dates. And typically users that have to do a lot of data entry, like bookkeepers, can really benefit from using these very simple shortcuts. But let's first start with the different field types. Okay, so first of all, we have date fields, which only accept date parameters, but for which we can also use shortcuts, as I just said. Then we have, of course, number fields. There are text fields, such as description fields, code fields with only predefined codes, and then also typically for NAV, flow fields. And so a flow field will display an amount, but by clicking on the amount, you will see the detail of the amount. So it's an amount calculated by NAV. So I will show you an example in a couple of moments. But let's first have a look at date shortcuts. Because like I just said, users that have to do a lot of data entry, they can really benefit from using these shortcuts. If you, for example, would like to enter a work date, just type W in the date field. If you would like to enter today's date, if today's date would be different from the work date, for example, just type T. So you see, these are the shortcuts that you can use to enter dates. Also, one that I like a lot and that I also use a lot is don't type separators. So if you have to enter a date, just type the month, day, year, or depending on the region, day, month, year, without separators. And as you will see, NAV will add automatically separators. So this will also allow you to enter date fields more efficiently. Let me show you some examples in the application. Suppose I want to enter a new document. So for example, I would like to create a new sales order. So I will assign a number. I will assign a customer. So this is a code field. So only accepting customer codes in this case. There you go. Then we have a description field. So the customer name is a description field, which is of course retrieved from the customer card. But if I would like to change it, I can just type another text, like limited, for example. And then we have the date field. In this case, NAV suggests the work date. But if I want to change it to another date, for example, January 21/15, I will just type, like I just said, the 6 numbers. And if I click on enter, you will see that separators are inserted automatically. That's something I find very useful. Okay, then flow fields. Flow fields, calculated fields. And a very good example is I will go to customers and I will open a customer. So here you can see the Canon Group, and the Canon Group, a customer, has got a balance in local currency of 13,491.39. Now, this is a flow field, and you can recognize flow fields by the blue color. So this they have a blue color, and if you position on the field, you will see that the field is underlined. And now by simply clicking on the field, you will get a detail. So if I would be interested in the detail of this amount, which invoices, which credit memos, and so on, just click on the flow field. So this is basically a calculated field. And you can see the detail. So in this case, a couple of invoices and 1 credit memo. Now, flow fields are used throughout the whole application. Typically NAV, and very, very useful, as you will experience yourself. So this is how you can enter and edit information in NAV based on the different field types. And the following function that we will have a look at is a very useful one. Check out the next lesson. Let's now have a look at the zoom function. And the zoom function is a very interesting and useful function. And you can use it to display all the fields of the underlying source table of a specific record. So let's go to the application so that I can show you an example. So here I have my customer list, and a customer list displays a number of fields. So I have a number, I have name, I have responsibility center, location code, and so on. Now, we already saw in the personalization module that I can go to choose columns. And I can add a number of available columns. So for example, if I want to add the country region code, this is very simple to do. So I can just add it. I can move it up, for example. And by clicking on OK, there you go. You can see now the country region code. So that's all very useful. But even all the fields that are displayed together with all the available fields still don't make all the fields of the source table. So the underlying source table, which is in this case the customer table, contains a lot more fields than the list that we see here. Now, in order to display these fields, you would have to go into technical design and add fields in the object designer. However, from a user perspective, you can also zoom on a record. And the zoom function will show you all the fields of the underlying table for a specific record. So for example, let's go and have a look and zoom on customer 10,000. So once again, just look at these fields, and we have like 20, 30 fields, I think, which is what we can display in the customer list. But as you will see, there are many more fields in the underlying customer table. So now by positioning on a line, so for example, customer 10,000, I can go to the help function, so to the application menu and then help. And then you can go to the function about this page. So this is the zoom function. As you can see, you can also use a shortcut, Ctrl-Alt-F1. So, and let me run this function. There you go. So what do we see here? First of all, you can see the source table. So this, like I just said, the customer list is based on source table 18, which is the customer table. Also very useful, I think, is that by zooming, you can also see the page number. So especially for IT professionals or application consultants, they sometimes want to know the page number of a specific page. Well, just zoom on the page and you can see the page number. And then if I now expand the table fields, there you go, you can see now, and as you can see here, we see a lot more than the 30 fields that we just saw. So you can see now all the different fields of the underlying source table with their values. You see, so there's quite a lot in the customer table, which is why you can see here quite a lot of fields, once again with their value. Now, typical about the zoom function is that you cannot edit. So you can only consult. But if I want to change, for example, the block payment tolerance from no to yes, so this is not something I can do here. I need to do from the customer code. But once again, zooming is a very easy way to consult all the fields of a record of the underlying table. Also notice that you can zoom on cards. So if I would go to a customer card, also here, the zoom function is available. So if I go to customize, if I go to help, I can go to about this page. And once again, you can see the same overview, but in this case of customer 20,000. So the zoom function, very useful, and a function that is also used quite a lot. Next, we will have a look at how to integrate NAV with Microsoft OneNote. Microsoft Dynamics NAV can integrate with a number of Office products, such as Word, Excel, but also OneNote. OneNote is a very efficient note-taking application, which is included in Office. So when you're using NAV, and for example, you're using customers, items, or anything within NAV, you can link OneNote records to records in NAV. So first you need to do some setup, and then you can start using OneNote. Let's start by having a look at the setup. Okay, so the setup is very simple. First thing is, of course, you will have to have OneNote installed, so that's quite obvious. And then what you will have to do is you will have to go to Profiles. So in application setup, you can go to RoleTailor Client and their profiles. So remember, these are all the different profiles that come out of the box when you install NAV, such as the Accounting Manager and so on. Now, you will have to allow using OneNote per profile. So for example, what you can see here is that if I want to allow order processors to use the OneNote feature, I will assign, or I will select use record notes and use page notes, for example. And then very important, you can enter the record notebook or the page notebook. As you can see here in this case, this is a local folder, but you can also use a SharePoint folder if you're using OneNote, for example, on SharePoint. So by adding this folder, we are now ready to use OneNote. Now, an example of how this looks like, you can see here in this presentation. So if I'm using item number 1000 with OneNote integration, you will see that the OneNote icon in the ribbon is enabled. So as long as you didn't perform the setup that I just showed you in the previous part, this icon will not be enabled. So in this case, the action is enabled, which means that if you click on it, you will get a OneNote pane. So I will get a separate pane in which I can enter information on the bicycle in this case. You see, so there will also be a link to the bicycle, which I can use to access the information in NAV or the information in OneNote. And so in this case, we can add information outside NAV, but inside Office, of course, on records, on information that we have in NAV. So that's how we can use OneNote for note taking, but you can also use simple notes. So and that's something that we will have a look at in the following lesson. How can we use notes in NAV? A following function that we can use for note taking combined with information in NAV is using notes. And I think the advantage of using notes, and that's a feature I like, is that you can use it as a very simple notification manager. You can send notes to another user on information in NAV. Let me show you an example. So as we already saw, one of the parts that you can have in your role center is My Notifications. And suppose now that I'm a sales order processor and I would like to give or I would like to add a note to a customer. So here I have a customer, so I can go to the customer card also if you want. And I can go here to the notes fact box. And so what I'm showing now on a customer, you can do with whatever page. You can also do this for documents like orders, invoices. You can do this for items, for jobs. So any page in NAV has this function available. Okay, so this is my customer, and suppose I would like to enter a note. So I would like to give some information. And what I can do now is I can click to create a note, as you can see. I can enter the note. For example, this customer has a new closing day, so a new weekly closing day, for example. And let me put it like that, Monday. Okay, so a very simple note, but one that is, of course, very useful for everyone working with that customer. So, and one of my colleagues in a warehouse is also working a lot together with this customer. So for him, it might be also very interesting to know that this customer is closed each Monday. So what you can do now is send the note to anyone. Now in this case, because there's only one user set up in my demo company, I will choose that user. So basically I'm choosing myself. But in a real life situation, you would have a complete list of users here. So there you go. Next, I will select Notify and I will save it. Okay. Now, the first thing that you can see is that I can access the note, of course, from the customer. So if I want to see the note that has been entered for this customer, I just double-click on it and I can see the note, like in this case, new weekly closing day, Monday. Okay, so that's the first thing that happens. But because of the fact that I've sent or I've notified another user, that user will also see the note in his or her role center. So if I now go to my role center, you can see here, there you go, add the notification, so the note that has been written on this customer. So I can see that the administrator has created a note, and this is the note that has been written, and it's based on this customer. And what makes it even more interesting is that you just have to double click on the note and the source page, in this case the customer card, will open. If the note would have been written on a sales order, for example, you would see that the sales order would have been opened. So that's the second way that you can enter notes in NAV, and also very useful because you can use it as a simple notification manager. So these are a few ways that you can enter notes in NAV. In the next lesson, let me show you how you can assign or attach links to a record in NAV. So now I will show you how you can add links to a record. And basically this function is very useful when you want to add external information to a record, like a file or a website. Because there's a lot of valuable data that we have inside our database, but there's of course also a lot of valuable data outside the database. And by linking these two, you will enable the user to use data from the database itself, but also from outside the database. And that's of course something which is very useful and which will increase the efficiency of using NAV 2013 R2. Let's have a look at an example. So I will take once again a customer. It's a very useful, thankful example. So for example, our Canon Group customer 10,000. Like I just said, already quite a lot of information on the customer card, but it could be interesting to link, for example, documents, websites, or whatever. And suppose that we just signed the contract with that customer, then it could be useful to assign the contract to this customer, which means that once this is done, you can very simply open the contract document, a PDF file or an XPS file or whatever, by clicking on the link. As you don't need to go and search on your hard drive or on the server. No, you just have to click on the link, which is assigned to the customer. So let's have a look. And also, this is something that in most of the cases is available from a fact box. So here you can see the links fact box. There you go. And if I want to add a link, I will click on new. So I will create a new link. There you go. Next, I want to search for the document that I would like to link. So I can click on the Assist Edit. And my Explorer window will open. And suppose that the document I would like to link is located on the desktop. You can, of course, also select a server location, a SharePoint location, a website, whatever. Okay, suppose in this case that this is the document I would like to link an invoice, a contract, whatever. So I will click on Open. Next, I can give a description. So I will stick with this description, but you can very easily change it. And by clicking on Save, you will see that this one document is now linked. So you of course not limited to one document. You can link as many documents, or you can create as many links to one record, so to one customer in this case, as you want. Okay. Now, and like I just said, the advantage is that once you added a link to a record, I can very simply, click here on the icon, and I can very simply open the document. So I don't need to search on my hard drive. I don't need to go to a server location or search on the website. No, very simple. You just click on the link and the link will be opened. So this is how we can add links to a record. Once again, what I've shown now on a customer, you can do on any page. Documents, journals, master data, whatever. In the next lesson, I will show you how we can send information to Word and Excel. In one of the previous lessons in this module, we saw how to use OneNote in NAV. Now, another or two other Office products that we can use are Word and Excel, and that's of course also very useful. Now, basically what you can do is you can export each page to Word or Excel. So suppose you want to have a customer list in Word, or you want to have an item overview in Excel. Very easy, just go to the page in NAV and click on the Export to Word or Excel button. Let me show you a couple of examples. So, for example, like I just said, items. So if I go to an item list, there you go. Very simple. There you see Microsoft Excel, so send to, which means that if you click on that list, like I will do right now, there you go. And if I click on Open, you will see that my item list is now exported to Excel. So all my items are now available in Excel. I can save the document and send it, for example, to my external accountant. So very easy to do. The export is based on all the fields, all the columns that are visible in NAV, and also the filters that you apply. So if I would apply a filter on anything, on base unit of measure, for example, you will see that only the items applying to that filter. So let me show you. If I filter to this value, and if I click on Microsoft Export to Microsoft Excel, there you go. So only these 5 items are exported. So that's the first thing that you can do. But you can also export to Microsoft Word. So for example, if I open an item card, so there you go. You can see now in the ribbon that I can send to Microsoft Word. So if I would do this, There you go. You see that my cart is exported to Word and that all the information of that specific item is now available in Word. Okay. Now, I showed you two examples where in one case you have the Microsoft Word icon in the ribbon and the other one the Microsoft Excel action. This doesn't mean that in this case you cannot send to Word. If you want to send to Word, just remind that the two options are always available by going to the application menu, going to print and send, and there you have these two options. So if I would like to have my item list in Word, I can just execute the function here, and there you go. So now I have my item list in Word. Okay, so both options are always available from each page, card pages, list pages, and so on. So that's how we can send information that we have in NAV to Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel. In the following topic, I will show you how you can create a link of a record in NAV and then send it, for example, by email. Let's have a look at how we can send NAV information to another person by using an attachment in an email. And I will also show you how you can copy a link and send it to anyone else. Okay, so first of all, let's start with the attachments. So here I got still my filtered item list, and so I already showed you how you can export this to Excel or to Word. But another thing that you can do is you can go to the application menu. I can go to print and send, and I can email it as an attachment. So now if I go to my email program, you can see that an HTML file is created, which is called items1 in this case, and I can send it to anyone. So if I just enter a couple of recipients in to or CC, you can send this HTML record, which I will show you now, to anyone else. So in that way, instead of using Word or Excel, you can use an HTML attachment to send NAV information to someone else. So that's the first thing that you can do. But a second one, which I also think is very useful, is so let me go back to NAV. Is creating a link of a page. So for example, suppose I would like to send information on yellow paint to someone else. So if I go now to the application menu, I can go to page, and then I can say copy link to page. So basically what NAV will do now is create a link. So I can go, for example, to my email program, and I can paste the link. Now, the difference between this feature and the previous one, so the HTML, is that this is something I can send to another user that also has access to NAV. And so that person can just click on the link, and as you will see, NAV will open and show you the page of that specific link. And so if I go now here, you can see, so there's my page. So there is my yellow paint item card, which I've sent by copying a link to someone else. So these are two different ways that we can use to, for example, by using our email program, send NAV information to another person or other persons. So first of all, you can create an HTML attachment and send it to someone else, or you can also copy the link. But with the second option, remember that the person that you're sending it to should also have access to the same NAV database. In the next topic, we will have a look at how to print documents and reports. Let me now show you a couple of examples of how we can print information in NAV. And although that if you look at financial analysis and reporting, more and more these analyses are made outside of NAV, like for example in Microsoft Excel, there's still quite a lot of information that users want to print. Just think about documents like invoices, but also a number of standard reports which are included in NAV. So let me show you an example. So, and in this case, I would like to print the customer top 10 list, for example. So that's a typical report, a very useful one because by printing or running the report, you can see, for example, your top 10 customers. So if I click on the report, you will get typically a request page where I can enter some information. So here in the Options Fast tab, I can specify a couple of fields. In this case, for example, if I want to see my top 10 customers based on sales or balance, I can also specify how many customers I would like to see. And there's also a chart available. And in this case, let's go for the pie chart. Then, if I would like to filter customers, suppose that you only want to see, like for example, customers of your own country, you can then add filters, for example, on the country region codes. In this case, I will not add a customer filter. I would just take all customers. And then if you click on Preview, you can preview the report. So, and there we go, and the report is being generated, and this is my report. So I can see my top 10 customers. So the first one is the Canon Group, then Clubben, and so on. And you can also see the chart, so the pie as we requested. This is a preview, but if I go back, of course, by clicking on Print, you will be able to print the report to a printer. And so that's quite obvious. So the reporting function, a very basic, a very obvious function, but still a very important function, which is very easy to use, as you saw in the example. Next, we will go to the sorting function. Now, typically in an ERP database, we can have a lot of data. And so this is also the case in NAV 2013 R2. And that's why it's very important to have the necessary tools to structure data. And we will have a look at a couple of these functions that we can use in NAV, such as sorting, searching, and filtering. But let's first start with the sorting function. So let's go to the application so that I can show you how we can sort in NAV. Okay, so sorting is very easy, and in fact, sorting is changed in NAV 2013 R2. So you now have to sort differently than you had to in the previous versions. But the only thing I can say, it became more intuitive. So it's easier, and it's more similar to the way that you sort in other applications. So if I go, for example, to an item list, there you go. You can see now that the item list is sorted based on number. So there's no sorting pane anymore. So sorting is now simply done just by clicking in the menu on a field. So there you go. If you want to sort on description, you just click on description, and you will see that description field is now used to sort ascending. If I want to sort descending on description, you just click again. And now you can see the icon changing, and now it's sorting descending. You see, so very easy and very intuitive. If you right-click on a field, you can also select ascending, descending. So that's the new way of sorting information. Also notice that you can sort on different fields. So for example, if I would like to start sorting on description ascending, and then I would like to sort, let's say, on vendor number, I can then hold Shift on my keyboard, and I can click on vendor number. And now vendor number is the second field on which NAV will sort, you see. So this will also allow you to sort on multiple fields. So this is how we can sort. And like I said, this is not the only function that we can use to structure data. The following one that we will have a look at is searching. Let's now look at how we can search or filter information. And so basically the difference between the two is when you use a search function, you will not limit the data that you will see. So you will just search within an amount of data. While if you filter, if you apply a filter, the result will be that you only will see the filtered records. So that's the difference. But you can, of course, use either of the two functions in NAV, as I will show you in the application. Okay, so I still have got my item list open, which is perfect. And the first thing that you might want to do is search in the item list. And for searching, you can just use the standard Windows shortcut that you use in most Windows applications, which is Control F. So if I just click on Control F, you will see that the search or the find window will open. First of all, I can select on what field I would like to search, and suppose this is still description. Next, I can enter a match, in this case chain, and you will see that the application will start searching for chain. So we'll go to the first record, then the second, the third, and so on. So very standard search function, as we also know it in other applications. One thing that might be important to notice is that you can also search on pages, but the difference is that we call the function here not find or search, but we call it go to. So there you can see already here in the ribbon the go to function, which is Control G, so not Control F. But if you click, you will see that it will work in exactly the same way. So if I type bicycle, there you go. So you will see that now it will start searching for bicycle, and it finds 2 records. So the same function, but named a little bit differently. The first one is named find, the second one is named go to. But like I just said in the introduction, searching will not limit the information, so I still have the same number of items displayed on my page. However, if you filter, you will see that the filter will limit the number of records. So for example, if I want to see all my items that have CAN as the base unit of measure, I can go there and I can apply a simple filter. The easiest way to do this is by just right-clicking on the item that you want to filter. So for example, this one, and then filter to this value. As you can see, you can also use a shortcut, Alt F3. And there you go, so now my list is filtered. Now, this is a filter based on one criterion, you could say. You can also apply a filter based on multiple criteria, so not only the base unit of measure, for example, but also the description or the number or whatever. And that's something that you can do by expanding the filter pane. So by doing this, you can now add filter criteria. So you can start with, for example, add the base unit of measure. I can then add a filter. I can say I would also like to filter on description, and so on. So that's the second way of filtering, and this is what we call the advanced filter. And then the third filter that you can apply is the limit totals. So the limit totals is a filter that you use on flow fields. So you're literally limiting the totals of a flow field. For example, I only want to see the purchases of a specific month. I only want to see the balance of a customer or the net change of a customer of last year. So these are typical examples where you would use a limit totals filter. Okay. There are also a number of filter criteria that you can use. So for example, I do not only want to see cans, but also pieces. So I will use now the pipe symbol, as we will call it. And the pipe symbol means or. Now NAV is showing items with base unit of measure cans or pieces. So this is one of the criteria. You can also use and, you can use from to. So there are lots of them, which you can also find in the help. And so by just typing filter criteria in the help, you will then see all the criteria that you can use when applying filters. So this is how we can use filters in NAV and how you can find information by using the find or the go to function. So you can now go to the demonstrations, and there you can see how to use quick filters. You can also see an example of an advanced filter and a limit totals filter. You will also see how to use filter criteria and how to use a variable in a filter criteria and save a filtered view. After the demos, you can go to the practice and try for yourself to set a filter on the customer list and then export to Excel. Let's now have a look at fact boxes. Now, we saw already fact boxes in the previous module, where we had a look at how we can customize or personalize a fact box. Now, if you want to use a fact box, that's of course very easy. Fact boxes are available on most of the pages. And let's have a look at an example. So if I go to a customer fact box, you can see the fact boxes at the right side. So the sell to customer sales history, for example, the customer statistics. And as we already saw in the previous module, fact boxes display information on, in this case, customers, for which we don't have to go to the customer card. So I don't need to double click to open the card to see, for example, that the number of posted shipments in this case is 6. And also very useful, these are all flow fields, as you can see, so they're colored blue, and we can click on them. Now, if I want to see these 6 posted shipments, I just click on the number, and there you go. So I've got my 6 shipments. I can navigate on one of them, navigate. And next I can, for example, go to the document. So the posted sales shipment. So if I click here on the one, there you go. So this is my shipment. So what you could see is that by using a fact box, I can click on an amount or a quantity in this case, and then I can navigate to a document, for example. So that's the big advantage. That's why these fact boxes are very useful to use, very efficient. So let's now go to the demonstration where you can have a look at how to use sell to customer sales history fact boxes and how to use the customer statistics bill to customer fact box. Let's now have a look at the difference between a posted and a non-posted document. And of course, if you enter a document in NAV, you will always start with a non-posted document. Once that all the information has been entered, you can then post your document. And then the big difference between the two is, of course, that the information in a non-posted document is editable, while the information in a posted document cannot be edited anymore. So I will show you an example. So if I go to a sales order, and if I open a sales order, so let's take this one. So you can see a sales order in this case for a number of loudspeakers. So and this is a non-posted document, which means that I can change anything. If I want to add an item, for example, I can very easily do this. So I can add, for example, a number of chairs. And so there you go. So I will accept this message, and I can enter, for example, 10 chairs. So very easy to do, and although the item, as you can see, is not in stock, I can still accept the message, and I've added an item, which is possible, once again, because this is a non-posted document. However, afterwards, if I want to ship and post or invoice the items to my customer, I can use the post function. And the post function, in this case, where I can choose between ship, and invoice, will then result in a posted document. So let me go to the posted documents menu. So here you can see a list of the most common posted documents in sales and purchase. So a sales shipment, an invoice, and so on. And if I take a sales invoice as an example, if I scroll down, so for example, the last one, you can see an example of a posted document. Now, from the structure point of view, this is more or less the same as a non-posted document. So we have a header, So the general file step, and there's a lines file step with the detail. But as you can see here, this is non-editable. So I cannot change anything anymore. Everything has been posted and attached to the posted documents. You will also see a number of entries, such as a GL entry in this case, a VAT entry, and so on. And so that's the difference between a posted and a non-posted document. So now we know the difference between these two. Let's go to the last lesson of this module, and there we will have a look at a very useful function that I already showed you in the previous topic, which is the navigate function. So in the previous lesson, we saw the difference between a posted and a non-posted document. And typically on posted documents, or on posted entries as you want, you can navigate. And navigate is a very useful function. I use it quite a lot. And navigate will show you all the posted entries that are created by the application when you post something, an invoice, a journal, and so on. So let's go to the application so that I can show you in detail what the navigate function can be used for. So I still have my posted sales invoice open, and as you can see now at the top, you can click on navigate. And as we already saw, this will show now all the posted entries that are created when posting, in this case, the sales invoice. Suppose I'm a bookkeeper, then I'm typically interested in GL entries. So I would like to see, okay, what happened in general ledger, which are the general ledger entries that the system created. So I can go, for example, now to this line, and I can click on Show Related Entries in the ribbon. And there you can see the GL entries. So I can see the sales accounts, I can see the customer account, I can see VAT accounts, and so on. So that's typically one of the things that you can use the navigate function for. If you want to do the same with the VAT entry, with the value entry, and so on, you just go to the line and you click on the Show Related Entries. Now, the navigate function is something that you can use from posted entries, from posted documents, or also by going to the history section of a specific application area. So you can use it in a lot of places in NAV. So this was the last feature of this module, and let's now go to the module review. So anyone who uses Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2013 R2 should know how to move in the role center, in navigation panes, and in the different windows. And you should also know how to use basic functions to process data. Now, as soon as you have this knowledge, you can start to learn and use all of the Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2013 R2 business functionalities. So thank you for following this module, and now that we know all the basic functionalities and basic functions, we can start using data. And that's why it would be great to also have you on the next module, in which we will have a look at master data in NAV 2013 R2.